Commander Alan Pierce stood at the viewport of the U.S. Defiant, his face hard as stone. The Earth ship moved away from the massive ring structure that housed the Galactic Council. He had been in many battles, but none had left him feeling so defeated as today's meeting. "Commander," said Lieutenant Judy Klein, approaching with a datapad. "The rest of the delegation is gathered in the conference room." Ellen nodded and followed her through the sleek corridors. The ship hummed with tension. Everyone knew what was at stake. In the conference room, 12 men and women sat around an oval table. At the center stood Dr. Olivia Kendrick, the physicist whose discovery had started all this trouble. Her quantum displacement technology could change everything. Instant travel across any distance without the Council-controlled wormhole network. "They've given us 30 days," Ellen announced. "Surrender the technology or face expulsion from the Council." The room erupted in angry voices. "After everything we've contributed," shouted Dr. Frank Williams, slamming his fist on the table. Olivia remained calm. "They're scared. This technology makes their control obsolete." Ellen brought up a holographic display showing the Council Arbiter, a tall blue-skinned alien named Zixtol, whose 6 eyes had stared them down with cold calculation. "The quantum displacement technology is too dangerous for a young species to control," the recording played. "Humanity must surrender all research and prototypes to Council safekeeping. This is not negotiable." Alan shut off the display. "They claim it's about safety. We all know it's about power. How reliable is the tech now?" asked Ambassador Paul Garcia. Olivia stood up and walked to the front of the room. She was young for someone who had made such a breakthrough, only 36, with determined eyes and a mind sharper than anyone Alan had ever met. "The leap drive works," she said simply. "We've successfully transported test vessels across the solar system. With more development, we could reach nearby stars without using a single Council wormhole. And that's exactly what terrifies them," Alan added. "Their entire economy depends on controlling who goes where and when." The ship's AI interrupted. "Commander, we're receiving a priority message from Earth Defense Command." A new hologram appeared, a star chart showing unusual energy readings at the edge of human space. "These readings appeared 6 hours ago," explained the AI. "They don't match any known signature." Ambassador Garcia looked worried. Could the Council be preparing some kind of enforcement? Ellen studied the readings. "No, this isn't Council tech. I've never seen patterns like these." "Neither have I," said Olivia, her scientific curiosity clearly piqued. "But they show signs of quantum instability similar to early tests of our displacement technology." The delegation fell silent as the implications sank in. "We should report this to the Council," suggested one of the junior diplomats. Alan shook his head. "Not yet. First, we take this home. Earth needs to decide where we stand." The journey back to Earth took 8 days using conventional drives. During that time, the strange readings disappeared as mysteriously as they had appeared. When they reached Earth, the United Nations Security Council was already in emergency session. The chamber fell silent as Alan and Olivia presented the Council's ultimatum. President Laura Martinez listened carefully before speaking. "Dr. Kendrick, in your professional opinion, is your technology dangerous?" "All-powerful technology can be dangerous," Olivia answered honestly. "But the Council's wormhole network has caused 3 system-wide disasters in the past century. Our technology is actually more stable." President Martinez nodded. "And Commander Pierce, your military assessment?" Alan stood straight. "Madam President, surrendering this technology would leave humanity dependent on Council goodwill forever. Those strange readings we detected suggest there might be things out there the Council isn't telling us about." The Security Council debated through the night. By morning, Earth had its answer. They would not surrender. Humanity would stand on its own. What no one realized was how soon that resolve would be tested, or how much the entire universe would come to depend on that decision. 6 months had passed since Earth's decision to reject the Council's demands. The expulsion ceremony played on screens across every human settlement from Earth to the outer colonies. On the main viewing platform in New York, Commander Alan Pierce watched with his arms crossed as Council Arbiter Six-Toll performed the ritual. The blue-skinned alien raised his ceremonial staff, its crystal tip glowing with artificial gravity. By unanimous vote of the Galactic Council, humanity is hereby stripped of all rights and privileges of membership, Six-Toll announced. All Council wormholes to human space will be closed. All trade agreements are void. Any human vessel found in Council territory will be seized. The staff came down with a crack that echoed through the broadcast. A symbolic chain appeared around a holographic Earth, then shattered into dust. "They're making quite a show of it," said Dr. Olivia Kendrick, standing beside Alan. "Fear often looks like anger," he replied quietly. The ceremony ended, and the screen switched to the United Nations building where President Laura Martinez approached the podium. Unlike the alien's elaborate robes, she wore a simple blue suit. Her voice was calm but firm. "Today marks not an ending, but a beginning," she said. "For too long, humanity has been the junior partner in an arrangement that primarily benefited others. Our quantum displacement technology, what we now call the leap drive, offers us independence. Yes, there will be hardships ahead, but we will face them together, as we always have." Applause filled the room. Even with the Council's economic sanctions cutting off nearly 30% of Earth's trade overnight, public support for the decision remained strong. After the broadcast, Alan and Olivia walked to the nearby research facility. Security was tight. 3 separate checkpoints with armed guards. Inside, 50 scientists worked around the clock on the Leap Drive project. "How's progress?" Alan asked as they entered the main lab. Olivia smiled. "See for yourself." She led him to a testing chamber where a small probe sat on a platform. "Watch this," she said, entering commands on a console. The probe glowed with soft blue light, then vanished. A screen showed it reappearing near Jupiter, then disappearing again, before materializing back on the platform. "Jupiter and back in under 2 seconds," Olivia said proudly. "We're ready for the first manned test next week." Alan smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Good. We'll need it sooner than we thought." He showed her his secure tablet. "My intelligence team intercepted these communications from 3 different sources." Olivia scanned the data. "These are from beyond Council space. Way beyond." "Yes, and they all mention the same thing, something called the Void Harbingers. Whatever they are, they're making the outer colonies nervous. But the Council isn't responding." Alan shook his head. "They're ignoring it completely, or hiding it." That night, in his apartment overlooking the Hudson River, Alan couldn't sleep. He pulled up classified satellite images from the edge of human space, the same region where they detected strange readings 6 months ago. Something was out there, moving, watching. The next morning, Alan met with Defense Secretary Gregory Harris. The older man listened carefully to Alan's concerns. "What exactly are you proposing, Commander?" Harris asked. "The U.S. Defiant is almost retrofitted with the new leap drive. Let me take her out beyond our boundaries. If there's a threat coming, we need to know before it arrives." Harris frowned. "The Council would consider that provocative." "With respect, sir, they've already locked us out. What more can they do?" After a long pause, Harris nodded. 2 weeks. Just reconnaissance. No engagement. Alan left the meeting with a mix of relief and dread. That afternoon, as he supervised the Defiant's preparations, an urgent message came through. A non-Council world named Eridani IV, located at the far edge of known space, had gone silent after sending a broken distress call. The only word clearly transmitted: help. The U.S. Defiant emerged from its quantum leap near Eridani IV. The bridge crew gasped at the sight before them. What should have been a thriving world with growing cities and vast oceans now looked wounded. Large black scars marked the planet's surface. "My God," whispered Commander Alan Pierce. "Life signs. Lieutenant Klein checked her sensors. Very few, sir. Concentrated in the northern continent. And there's something else. Radiation readings I've never seen before. Alan stood from his captain's chair. Prepare a landing team. Full hazard gear. 2 hours later, Alan led a team of 6 down to the surface in a shuttle. Dr. Olivia Kendrick insisted on coming along. The shuttle landed in what used to be a city center. Now it was mostly ash. The buildings weren't just destroyed, Olivia said, examining the remains. They were consumed somehow. A sound made them turn. From behind a fallen structure, a group of Eridani natives approached cautiously. They were humanoid with pale blue skin and large eyes. One stepped forward, wearing what looked like a leadership pendant. I am Kirithal, he said in accented common language. You are from Earth. Elen nodded. Commander Alan Pierce of the U.S. Defiant. We received your distress call. Kirithal's large eyes blinked with emotion. You are the only ones who came. The survivors led them to an underground shelter where about 200 Eridani lived in cramped conditions. Children huddled against parents. Food supplies were clearly limited. It happened 3 days ago, Kirithal explained as they sat in a makeshift council room. They came from beyond the outer rim. Ships like nothing we've seen before. Black, with purple energy flowing through them. How many ships? Elen asked. 3 large ones, many smaller ones. Kirithal's voice shook. They didn't communicate. They didn't make demands. They simply began. Feeding. Feeding? Olivia asked. The weapons they used, they didn't just destroy. They absorbed. Energy, matter, even life itself was pulled into their ships. Our defense fleet was consumed in minutes. Elen exchanged glances with Olivia. This matched the strange energy signatures they had detected months ago. Why did they leave? Elen asked. They didn't get what they wanted, said an older Eridani female. They kept scanning for something specific. Kirithal nodded. Before they left, they broadcast one message in all languages. The Harbingers seek the key. Back on the Defiant, Alan called an emergency meeting with his senior officers and Olivia. The Eridani say this has happened to 3 other worlds in the past month. Alan explained. All attacked by these Void Harbingers, all non-council worlds. The council must know about this, said Security Chief Lisa Morris. Why keep it secret? To prevent panic, Olivia suggested, or because they don't want to admit there's a threat they can't control. Elen pulled up a star chart. The attacks are moving in a clear pattern, toward council space and Earth. What's this key they're looking for? Asked Chief Engineer Sam Gordon. Unknown, Elen replied. But whatever it is, we need to warn Earth. Suddenly, alarms blared through the ship. Commander, called out the tactical officer. Unknown vessel just appeared at the edge of the system. It matches the Eridani descriptions. Black hull, purple energy signature. How did it find us? Lisa asked. The leap drive, Olivia realized. Our jump created a unique quantum signature. They must be tracking it. Battle stations, Alan ordered. Prepare to jump back to Earth. Sir, said the tactical officer, the alien ship is powering weapons. And it's sending a transmission. On the main screen, a figure appeared. It was vaguely humanoid but wrong somehow, like looking at a human shape underwater. Its voice came through distorted. Possessors of the key, you cannot hide. The Void Hunters. As the transmission ended, the alien ship fired. Purple energy lanced toward the Defiant. Jump now, Elen shouted. The Defiant vanished just as the beam reached them, the edge of the energy barely grazing their shields. They had escaped, but they had also confirmed something worse than expulsion from the Council now threatened humanity. The Harbingers were coming. The United Nations Emergency Council room was packed. Commander Alan Pierce and Dr. Olivia Kendrick stood before the world's leaders, presenting evidence of the Void Harbinger threat. Video footage from Eridani IV played on the large screen, showing cities reduced to ash. "We believe they're searching for something they call the key," Alan explained. "And for some reason, they think we have it." President Laura Martinez leaned forward. "Could it be related to our leap drive technology?" Olivia nodded. "It's possible. The quantum signatures are similar to readings we detected during early tests." "We need to warn the Council," said the French representative. "Even if they expelled us, this threatens everyone." Ellen brought up another screen showing communication logs. "We've tried. 3 separate messages sent through old emergency channels, all ignored." Defense Secretary Gregory Harris stood up. "We can't wait for them to acknowledge the danger. We need to prepare." After 2 hours of debate, President Martinez made her decision. "We will implement Operation Lighthouse, a network of early warning outposts along the edge of our space, equipped with the latest leap drives and sensors." "That will take months," Alan pointed out. "Then we better start now," Martinez replied firmly. While Earth prepared its defenses, Olivia's team worked day and night studying the data from the Harbinger ship. 3 weeks after their return, she called Alan to her lab. "I found something," she said, dark circles under her eyes from lack of sleep. "Look at these energy patterns." Alan studied the screen. "What am I seeing?" "The Harbinger's weapons operate on a quantum level. They don't just destroy matter. They consume it, converting it to energy they can use." Alan frowned. "Like a vampire." "More like a black hole with purpose," Olivia replied. "But here's the important part. They generate specific quantum resonance frequencies when they feed. And those frequencies have a weakness." She pressed a button, and a simulation showed a Harbinger energy beam disrupted by a counterwave. "Counter frequencies could disrupt their technology," she explained. "Maybe even harm them." Alan's eyes widened. "You found a weapon against them." "Potentially. But we need more data to refine it." Alan immediately brought this discovery to Defense Secretary Harris, who authorized accelerated weapon development based on Olivia's findings. Meanwhile, the first 3 lighthouse outposts went operational. Each was staffed with a small crew and equipped with advanced sensors and communication systems. Within days, they began detecting unusual activity at the edge of human space. Lieutenant Catherine Wong commanded Lighthouse Station Alpha. She was the first to spot the Harbinger scout ships testing Earth's perimeter. "They're being careful," she reported to Alan during a secure communication. "Never staying in one place long enough for us to track them. But they're definitely mapping our defenses." Alan sent this information to Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council, who again tried to warn them of the approaching threat. Once more, the Council dismissed their claims as human deception, designed to force an end to their isolation. On Earth, cities began constructing underground shelters. The military converted factories to produce weapons based on Olivia's resonance technology. Civilian ships were retrofitted with basic defenses. One evening, as Alan reviewed defense plans in his office, Olivia burst in without knocking. "I just received this from Lighthouse Beta," she said, placing a datapad on his desk. The screen showed a massive energy surge moving through Council space, heading toward the core systems. "They've started their main offensive," Alan said. "And they're not coming for Earth first. They're attacking Centauri Prime," Olivia confirmed. "The Council's most prestigious colony world." Alan immediately called President Martinez. "Madam President, we have confirmation. The Harbingers have begun their invasion of Council space. Centauri Prime is their first target. Can we warn them in time?" the President asked. "We've been warning them for months," Alan replied grimly. "They chose not to listen." Outside Alan's window, the sunset painted the sky blood red, as if the universe itself knew what was coming. Lieutenant Catherine Wong sat frozen at her command station on the small human reconnaissance ship Hidden Arrow. Through the view screen, she watched as Centauri Prime burned. The Harbinger ships, 5 massive vessels shaped like twisted black stars, hung in orbit around the once beautiful world. Purple energy beams reached down to the surface, draining entire cities in minutes. "Record everything," she ordered her small crew. Earth needs to see this. 3 days earlier, the hidden arrow had jumped to the edge of the Centauri system after detecting the Harbinger fleet's approach. Catherine had immediately sent warnings to the Centauri Defense Force and the Council representatives stationed there. They had ignored her completely. Now millions were dying because of that pride. "Captain," called her sensor officer, "I'm detecting a group of small ships leaving the surface. Civilian vessels. They're being pursued by a Harbinger scout." Catherine made a quick decision. Intercept course. Ready weapons. The hidden arrow jumped into position between the fleeing ships and their pursuer. The resonance weapon, a smaller version of what Dr. Kendrick had developed, fired directly at the Harbinger scout. The black ship shuddered as conflicting energy waves disrupted its systems. "It's working," shouted the weapons officer. The scout ship retreated, its purple energy dimming. Catherine opened a channel to the civilian vessels. "This is Lieutenant Wong of Earth Vessel Hidden Arrow. Follow us to these coordinates for emergency jump to safety." 23 ships, carrying over 2,000 refugees, followed her to the jump point. Among them was a Council diplomatic vessel. When they reached the human outpost at Alpha Centauri, the refugees were given food, medical care, and temporary housing. Catherine was called to meet with a Council representative who had been on one of the escaping ships. Junior Minister Ben Carson was tall and thin with light green skin and silver eyes typical of his species. Unlike most Council officials Catherine had met, he looked shaken. "You saved our lives," he said quietly, "after we ignored your warnings." Catherine nodded. "We tried to tell you they were coming." The Council leadership. He hesitated. They knew. For years, they'd known about the Harbingers, but they classified all information about them. Even most Council members weren't told. "Why?" Catherine demanded. "Fear of panic. Fear of losing control." He looked away. Fear that solutions might come from lesser species like humans. Back on Earth, Commander Alan Pierce, now promoted to Admiral, reviewed the footage from Centauri Prime with President Martinez and her cabinet. "The Harbingers destroyed their largest city in under 6 hours," he explained. "The Council Defense Fleet was wiped out in minutes." "And our weapons?" asked Secretary Harris. "Lieutenant Wong's report confirms Dr. Kendrick's resonance technology works against their smaller ships. We need more power for the larger vessels." President Martinez turned to her communications director. "Make this footage public. Everyone needs to understand what we're facing." Within hours, Council representatives arrived in Earth orbit requesting emergency talks. After 2 years of silence, they now wanted humanity's help. Admiral Pierce and Dr. Kendrick joined President Martinez to meet with the Council delegation at the neutral Luna base. Senior Arbiter Valfar, the Council's second highest official, led their group. "The situation has become untenable," Valthar stated without preamble. "The Harbingers have destroyed 3 major systems. Centauri Prime is lost. We need your quantum displacement technology and defense strategies immediately." President Martinez remained calm. "For 2 years, you've isolated us, called us dangerous, ignored our warnings about the Harbingers, and now you expect us to simply hand over our technology. The survival of all species is at stake," Valthar insisted. "Yes," Admiral Pierce agreed. "It is. And that's why we'll help, but not on your terms." As they negotiated, reports came in of more Harbinger attacks. The massive enemy fleet was moving methodically through Council space, consuming world after world, and with each victory, they grew stronger. Earth's defense network now stood as the only significant barrier between the Harbingers and the heavily populated core systems of the galaxy. The Grand Meeting Hall of the United Nations had never hosted so many alien species before. Representatives from 15 Council worlds sat across from Earth's leaders. Admiral Alan Pierce watched them carefully. 2 weeks had passed since the fall of Centauri Prime, and the Harbingers had destroyed 2 more major systems. "We propose a conditional return to the Council," said Supreme Leader Valfar. His tall, thin frame seemed weighted down by recent events. Earth will be granted full membership status. In return, you will share your leap drive technology and defense strategies. President Laura Martinez looked to her advisors. Secretary Harris nodded slightly. Dr. Olivia Kendrick remained neutral. What guarantee do we have that once this crisis ends, the Council won't simply exile us again? Martins asked. Valthar blinked his 6 eyes in what might have been surprise. We face extinction. Is this the time for such concerns? Admiral Pierce stepped forward. It's exactly the time. Trust must go both ways, Supreme Leader. Junior Minister Ben Carson, who had been rescued from Centauri Prime, spoke up unexpectedly. The Admiral is right. The Council has not earned Earth's trust. Murmurs ran through the alien delegation at this show of division. After hours of debate, a compromise emerged. Earth would rejoin the Council with special status. Humanity would share their technology, but maintain independent control of their defensive network. A joint military command would be established with equal human representation. Not everyone was happy with the arrangement. That evening, Admiral Pierce found Dr. Kendrick working alone in her lab. You didn't support the agreement, he said. Olivia looked up from her calculations. I didn't oppose it either. But you have concerns. She sighed and pushed away from her desk. The Council hid information about the Harbingers for years. What else are they hiding? Ellen nodded. I've had the same thought. That's why I've insisted on maintaining control of our network. There's something else, Olivia said. I've been studying the Harbinger energy signatures. They're specifically attracted to quantum displacement energy, the exact signature our leak drives produce. Ellen frowned. You think our technology is drawing them here? Not exactly. I think they were already coming. But they can track our jumps because they use similar principles. She pulled up a holographic display. I believe the key they're searching for is actually a power source. Something that generates energy like our drives, but vastly more powerful. And they think we have it, or that we know where it is. The next day, scientists from various council worlds arrived to work with Olivia's team on developing more effective weapons. Meanwhile, Admiral Pierce oversaw the integration of Earth's defense systems with the remaining Council fleets. Junior Minister Carson proved to be a valuable ally, providing access to classified Council archives that revealed more about the Harbingers. They were an ancient species, appearing every few thousand years to feed on developed worlds before disappearing again. The last time they had appeared, nearly 10,000 years ago, they had almost destroyed all advanced life in the galaxy. 1 week into the alliance, Lieutenant Wong sent an urgent message from Lighthouse Station Delta. Admiral, we've detected unusual movements in the Council fleet. Several battle groups have been redirected away from the Joint Defense Line. Ellen immediately called an emergency meeting with the Joint Command. When confronted, the Council military representative admitted the truth. The Council homeworlds have ordered additional protection. Surely you understand. You're weakening our entire defense, Ellen said angrily. The plan was to stop them at the prepared line, not retreat to protect your homeworlds while sacrificing everyone else. Word of this betrayal spread quickly through the human forces. Trust in the alliance, already fragile, began to crack. President Martinez demanded an explanation from Supreme Leader Valthar. Before a resolution could be reached, all emergency channels activated at once. Lieutenant Wong's voice came through, tight with urgency. Multiple Harbinger vessels detected on approach to Sol system. This is not a drill. They found Earth. The sky above Earth filled with ships. Every vessel humanity could muster formed a defensive line around the planet. From his command position on the flagship U.S. Defiant, Admiral Alan Pierce watched as the last civilian transports evacuated to the underground shelters on Mars and the Moon bases. Status report, he ordered, his voice steady despite the weight of 7 billion lives on his shoulders. All defense platforms online, reported Commander Lisa Morris. Resonance weapons charged at 80% capacity. Lighthouse stations report the Harbinger fleet will arrive in 19 minutes. Ellen nodded. and the Council support forces. Lisa hesitated. Sir, we've received word that they've been delayed. Delayed? Alan wasn't surprised. They're not coming, are they? No, sir. They've diverted to protect their homeworlds. The bridge fell silent. Earth would face the Harbingers alone. Alan opened a channel to all human ships. This is Admiral Pierce. The Council forces will not arrive in time to assist us. We stand alone, as we have before. Remember your training. Remember what we fight for. Every ship, every weapon, every person matters today. Dr. Olivia Kendrick worked frantically in her lab beneath the Rocky Mountains. Her team had been developing a more powerful version of the resonance weapon. Junior Minister Ben Carson had stayed to help, one of the few Council representatives who hadn't abandoned Earth. The calculations are still off, Olivia said, frustration in her voice. We need more power to disrupt their largest ships. Ben studied the equations. What if we use the leap drive itself as the power source? Channel its energy directly into the resonance field. Olivia's eyes widened. That could work, but it would destroy the drive in the process. Maybe even the ship. Better than losing Earth, Ben said quietly. Olivia quickly sent the new calculations to Admiral Pierce. His response was immediate. Implement on the U.S. Intrepid. It's our largest battleship and has the most powerful leap drive. The Harbinger fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system. 7 massive ships and dozens of smaller vessels. Their black hulls absorbed light, making them look like holes in space. Purple energy pulsed along their surfaces. The battle began with a wave of Harbinger scout ships. Humanity's defense platforms fired, their beams hitting with mixed results. Some scouts were disabled by the resonance weapons, but others adapted and pressed forward. They're learning, Alan realized, adjusting their frequencies to counter our weapons. The first Harbinger battleship moved into range, its massive energy beam cutting through 3 human cruisers like they were nothing. The U.S. Columbia moved to intercept, firing its resonance cannon at full power. The Harbinger ship shuddered but kept coming. On the moon, the main colony took a direct hit. 30,000 people vanished in an instant. Admiral Pierce ordered all remaining ships to focus fire on the lead Harbinger vessel. Captain Steve Mitchell commanded the U.S. Intrepid. He had just received the modified resonance weapon plans from Olivia. Engineering reports the modifications are complete, his first officer informed him. But sir, using the leap drive this way will overload all systems. There's no way to survive the discharge. Steve nodded. I know. Contact my wife. Tell Dr. Grace Mitchell I love her. He opened a channel to the Admiral. Pierce, this is Mitchell. We're ready to implement Protocol Omega. Alan closed his eyes briefly. Understood, Steve. Your sacrifice won't be forgotten. The U.S. Intrepid moved directly toward the lead Harbinger ship. Its engines pushed to maximum as it dodged energy beams. When it was less than a kilometer from the alien vessel, Captain Mitchell gave his final order. Activate the resonance pulse. Full power. The Intrepid's leap drive channeled all its energy into the resonance weapon. A blinding flash of blue-white light erupted from the ship. The pulse hit the Harbinger vessel at point-blank range. The alien ship convulsed as conflicting energy waves tore through its systems. Then both ships exploded in a massive release of quantum energy. The shockwave hit the remaining Harbinger vessels, disrupting their energy fields temporarily. The human fleet pressed the advantage, focusing all fire on the weakened ships. But the battle for Earth had only just begun. 3 days into the battle for Earth, Admiral Alan Pierce hadn't slept. His uniform was wrinkled, his eyes red from exhaustion. The U.S. Defiant had taken heavy damage but remained operational. On the main screen, he watched as another Harbinger ship fell to the combined fire of 5 human vessels using the modified resonance weapons. Captain Mitchell's sacrifice had given them hope. The quantum pulse from the U.S. Intrepid had shown that the Harbingers could be hurt, even destroyed. Status report, Alan called out. Commander Lisa Morris looked up from her station. 4 Harbinger capital ships destroyed. too damaged but still fighting. Their smaller vessels are retreating to regroup. Our losses. Lisa's voice grew quiet. 63% of our fleet. The lunar colony. New Zealand. Eastern Europe. Billions of lives hung in the balance. Alan opened a channel to Dr. Olivia Kendrick's underground lab. Olivia, we need something more. At this rate, we won't last another day. Her face appeared on screen, exhausted but determined. We've been studying the data from the Intrepid's pulse. Ben and I think we can create a larger version, one that could affect all Harbinger ships in the system. How? We need to overload the leap drive engines of 3 ships simultaneously, creating a triangular field of resonance energy. She sent the schematics to his display. It would require precise timing and positioning. And the ships would be destroyed in the process. Alan studied the plan. I'll call for volunteers. Within an hour, 3 damaged but still functional destroyers were positioned at the points Olivia had calculated. Each captain had volunteered, knowing they wouldn't return. Protocol Omega Prime ready for execution, reported Commander Morris. Alan gave the order. Begin countdown. As the sequence started, sensors detected new ships arriving in the system. Alan tensed, expecting more Harbinger reinforcements. Instead, a fleet of Council vessels appeared, over 200 ships from various worlds. Junior Minister Ben Carson's voice came through. Sorry we're late. Admiral, I took the liberty of contacting some friends who disagreed with the Council leadership's decision to abandon Earth. The fresh ships immediately engaged the remaining Harbinger vessels, providing cover for the 3 destroyers implementing Protocol Omega Prime. 10 seconds to pulse activation, announced Commander Morris. The 3 destroyers' leap drives powered up to maximum. Energy readings went off the scale. The Harbinger ships seemed to sense the danger, turning their weapons toward the human vessels. 5 seconds. 1 destroyer took a direct hit but maintained position. 3, 2, 1. The 3 ships erupted in blinding light. A triangular field of blue-white energy formed between them, expanding outward in a massive wave. When it reached the Harbinger vessels, they convulsed as their energy fields collapsed. Purple light flickered and died. The black ships drifted powerless. All Harbinger vessels disabled, reported Commander Morris, disbelief in her voice. We did it. 1 week later, Earth began to rebuild. The cost had been terrible, millions dead, cities destroyed, the moon colony gone, but humanity had survived. In the rebuilt United Nations chamber, President Laura Martinez addressed representatives from both human colonies and Council worlds. The old Council failed when faced with this threat, she said. They hid the truth, then abandoned allies when needed most. We propose a new alliance, one built on honesty, mutual protection, and respect for all species. Junior Minister Ben Carson, now acting as representative for the remaining Council worlds, stood. My people support this proposal. The old ways led us to disaster. It's time for change. Admiral Pierce watched from the back of the room. Beside him, Dr. Olivia Kendrick held a data pad showing scans from deep space. More Harbinger signals had been detected at the galaxy's edge. This isn't over, she said quietly. No, Alan agreed. But next time, we'll face it together. All of us. Outside the chamber, Earth's sky was filled with ships again, but now they came to help rebuild. Human vessels worked alongside alien craft, former enemies now partners in survival. The universe had indeed paid a price, but from that payment, something new and perhaps better had emerged. Humanity had left the Galactic Council, and in doing so, had saved the galaxy.